We have 5 kids and then like 3 grandbabies at home. So right now, it's a big help to us. This is our first time at any food bank. We heard about this one, so we just decided to come.
Did you ever think that you would find yourself at a food bank?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
You just heard from Jack Gwynn in Houston. He went to a food bank for the first time in his life yesterday because coronavirus left him and his wife unemployed. As you heard him say, he's feeding 5 kids and 3 grandkids. Jack's not alone. We've all seen the videos of cars lined up for hours at food banks across the country. Unprecedented number of Americans are resorting to food banks just to feed their families. Joel Berg, the CEO of Hunger Free America, joins me now to talk about what he is hearing from the front lines. Joel, what have you heard from the folks that are running food banks across this country about what this moment is like?
Thanks for focusing on this, Chris. Well, we've heard this is an unprecedented crisis, the worst hunger crisis most likely since the Great Depression. The Bed-Stuy campaign against hunger, a handful of blocks from my house in Brooklyn, the CEO told me they have people going around a block and a half, and this is a big New York City avenue block across the country. Food banks have people lined up, soup kitchens and food pantries have people lined up. And even more importantly, there's a huge backlog at SNAP offices, food stamps offices, and WIC clinics around the country, because we also have to keep in mind the federal safety net programs, even though they're underutilized, are still 10 times the dollar amount of food provided by soup kitchens and food pantries and food banks. So all around, with the massive collapse of jobs, with 30 million school meals not being delivered each day to kids, we have a true hunger pandemic.
In terms of SNAP, there were increases to SNAP in the CARES package, if I'm not mistaken. I think actually both the second bill they passed and the third, have those been sufficient to meet the need?
Well, actually, there was some slightly misleading reporting about the third package. There was actually not a penny of new money for the SNAP program in the CARES package. In fact, all the SNAP dollars in there were for previously existing programs. And by the way, about your discussion with Stephanie Ruhle on the PPP, that also is supposed to apply to nonprofit groups. The New York City, Hunger Free America, our current name, applied for that, and we did not get it. And so if there is more money passed, we could get hundreds of thousands of dollars from that. But even with that, we oppose passing that extension unless finally new money for the SNAP program is put in it. Now, the second bill, the one pushed by and championed by Speaker Pelosi, did have a very significant new anti-hunger program called the Pandemic EBT program, which will give millions of parents of kids in public schools with free and reduced price meals money on electronic cards to get food. But only 2 states so far have been approved by the Trump administration. New York, where I live, has proposed a truly excellent, top-notch plan to USDA. It would provide food to the parents of 1.6 million children in New York State who aren't getting school meals. It would provide over $850 million worth of food, and yet that and many other state plans has not been approved by the Trump administration yet. And the White House has also refused to use a special provision to declare disasters in the method needed for a thing called emergency SNAP, emergency food stamps, disaster food stamps to be used. So all around, there's really a lacking in the federal response, and I do hope the Democrats stay tough and insist that more money go to food programs and not just the Ruth Chris of the world.
Yeah, I guess it's a key point there, which I hadn't quite thought of course, which is that the capacity of the federal government dwarfs what food banks can do, and we're seeing food banks in these lines. But really, this should be solved primarily with government policy during this period of time. And you got to think that those food banks are also not going to be able to process and stay open and be able to do what they have to do for much longer. Joel Berg, thank you so much. It's always great to hear your perspective.
Thank you, Chris.